Hi everyone, welcome back to another repair video. Today we have a Pioneer audio system. It's a multi-component system. At the bottom we have a amplifier. It's the MJ300 model. Next up is the twin CD player, which is a PDJ500T model. Above that is the tuner. That's a CX-J500, and at the top we have the sound image controller or equalizer, and that's a GR-J400 model. Now this has come to me because everything works fine until you plug in the sound image controller at the top there, at which point you turn it on and you can get audio, but nothing else lights up. So it kind of it looks like it's stuck on the last source selected, and in the case of radio, for example, the station was still coming out of the speakers, but nothing else would light up. None of the buttons would function. So I'll be focusing on the sound imager as being the likely cause of the problem. They all interconnect down the back there. I doubt it would be the section that the sound image controller plugs into, and that plugs into the tuner control below it, and gets its power and such from there. So we'll pull the top off that, and first thing we'll do is look for anything obvious. Well, there's not a lot going on inside here. There's what looks like voltage regulators, and up on the front panel there is display, some buttons, some micro to control that, but really not a whole lot of anything in here. There's surface rust in some places, and I'm not entirely sure what environment this was kept in, but yeah, a bit of dust. Let's take a closer look at the front panel. So I've just flipped the front panel back over on itself, and just having a look at the solder joints. They all look alright. There doesn't appear to be any obviously dry jointed ones. No sign of any liquids having gotten to it, for example. Now we'll pull up the main board there and see what's underneath that. Right. No obvious dry joints there. Looking at things like the voltage regulators, for example. No, everything seems fairly hunky-dory. Yeah, alright, we'll have to start testing components now. We'll see if we've got voltage rails at what they should be. There's stuff written all over the board, so at least we know what we're looking for. Up here, for example, 24 volts in minus 30 that'll be for the screen. It's a Nixie vacuum fluoro screen. Okay, so I've set that up so you can see the voltage readings as well. The cable coming in is 20 pins roughly. What do we got there? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 pins, and staggered. We've got a list of what each pin does down here. and staggered, of course. So up the top here it's got request, enable, system clock, system data, and then one marked power. I'll just go and switch it on, and if we follow down, it's got power, -30, fluoro AC1 and 2, and then ground. Ground being this one here, and I'm just going to trace that out to here just so my lead is out the way, and head on up and measure the other ones. So we're not going to worry about the system clock and data. There won't be anything useful on there at this stage. So we've got one marked power. It's got 4.7. Then we've got -30, should be on this one, and as you can see, -4. That's not too good for a start, and I'm pretty sure they use those minus rails for the fluoro screen as well, display, and with that being at -4, something's loading that down when this is plugged in perhaps, and that's why all the other fluoros are not lighting up either. Following on from that, we've got our fluoro AC1 and 2, ground. This one should be +24. Hang on, let's get back on there. It's about 20. Right, it's a little bit low as to what it should be. Next one in line is something marked as 4053. I don't really know what on earth that does, probably some data or something. And then we've got our audio in and out, and audio ground. So I'd start focusing on our -30 volt rail, which is sitting at -4. That'll be a good place to start. I will point out that this unit isn't even turned on. It's got its own power switch and it's not turned on, so that's another interesting factor. Just actually found another couple of lines I want to test, so go back to ground there. We should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.6. I've got 5.8 on the 5.6 line. That's handy to note. There's fluoro AC1, AC2, another line that should be -30. They must go back to our main input there, so that's not. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is check the resistance to ground on the 30 volt rail. Make sure that there's no really low resistances that are drawing the whole thing down. So I'm just going to measure between ground and 30, which is that one there. 1 megohm, certainly nothing to pull that down, is it? That's interesting. If I just check this one down here as well, AC 1, 2, 30, it's the same line, so it's 1 megohm. Right. Now I've actually turned this unit on. I followed the power switch, and when it's switched on, it does go back to this line marked power. So we'll just have a quick look at how that affects that. It was at 5 volts before, and still is with the power switch on, so that switch is switching power down through here. The 5 volts comes down to that transistor there. So the power switch switches a transistor which passes 5 volts through up to the front panel, it seems, and that's operating as it should. So you know, with 1 meg on that 30 volt line, I'm starting to think there's not a problem in this unit at all, and the problem may exist in the power supply section that feeds this, maybe being unable to feed 30 volts to so many displays at once. So we'll pull the cover off the tuner unit and see what's in there. All right, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty, and I mean really gritty, crunchy spider carcasses and all. Now here's our mains transformer. We're plugged in at the moment, so be very careful doing this sort of work. These are live, different taps for different voltage inputs, and you want to be really careful not to touch those. Now over here, obviously plenty more, or a bunch of heat sinks with voltage regulators and so on. There's a main filter capacitor, some other capacitors there, and a relay, and yeah, a lot of dust. I gave it a bit of a vacuum out, but still a bit in there. Some things look like they've gotten rather warm over its lifetime. All the fuses are fine, and there's a nice conveniently placed one on its own little stand there. Okay, who can tell me what's wrong with this picture? Let's go in for a closer look. I'd say she's gotten rather warm. There we can see how it's gotten so warm the solder looks like it's melted and come away from the joint completely almost. And if we head on over to here, there's a couple of really bad joints on whatever that is. I haven't looked at the other side yet. Definitely that's in our power section there, and certainly the likely cause of all of our trouble. It is tied in with the minus 30 volt rail, so what we'll need to do is check the components there that have obviously gotten really hot and make sure that they are within spec, resolder up the legs and see what happens. Sometimes that's not as easy to do as you'd hope. In the case of that component there and down there, they're both little, looks like quarter watt resistors. The colours have burnt off them, although they're not measuring open circuit or extremely low resistance. I'd be inclined to believe that they're still about right value. There's a transistor there that checks out, and I believe that operates a relay under there. Right, we'll resolder these here and see if we can flow a nice connection on there. I added a little extra flux because of how shitty they looked, just to try and clean them up a bit. The leads tend to tarnish when they get really hot, and new solder doesn't stick too easily. So what I've done down here is I actually lost the pad that the lead comes through, so I've scratched back the green coating on the track there, and I'll have to reattach to that. I'm fairly confident none of these other surrounding pins attach to that. I have been unable to find a service manual for this one, so I'm just going to have to play it by ear and say that those resistors are still in value. That one measured at 1.1k. Maybe it's drifted up, maybe it should have been 1k, I'm not too sure. Yeah, I'll touch up a couple more that are looking a bit off. We don't want any repeats further down the track. Right, I've flipped it back over and I'm just going to plug everything back in, and we will see. We'll make sure it works on its own. first, and then with the other unit attached, and right, here we go. And it's on. Let's plug the other unit in. Right, we've got the unit on top, and we'll hit power. And still nothing. Well, I guess it's a little more involved than a couple of solder joints then. Let's see if we can try and run this thing in pieces then, and see if we can't see what's going on there.